You know the vibes. Welcome back to another episode of the Hoop Genius podcast brought to you by NBA 2K25. It is myself, Mooncey, alongside me, as always now, this week in particular, Coach Brendan Suhr. Coach, how you doing, brother?
I'll tell you what, we finally saw a good game in the Western Conference, high level game. You know, everyone shot the ball well from the 3-point line, free throws.
Well, 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 well.
Julius Randle was missing in action, unfortunately.
We've had a lot of praise on this show for Julius Randle over the
Yep,
playoffs. He
yep.
needs to regain that form. Anthony Edwards also struggled tonight with 16 points as the OKC Thunder went into Minnesota and took a 3-1 series lead with the 128 to 126 win. Now,
Yeah.
before we break down the game, I've got to say something again. I can't believe I'm having to do this again. Imagine this. It's the conference finals. There's 9 seconds left on the clock. It's a 3-point game. The stage is set for history to be made, a cinematic, dramatic ending of the game, and they foul on purpose. I understand the logic, I understand the analytics and the strategy, but I think it's cowardly and I hate it. And they need to put in a rule to remove this from the game because it absolutely sickens me. It takes all the fun out at the end of the game. This is a business. Basketball, the NBA is a business. We are here to be entertained, not watch a free throw contest. I understand the logic, but the same way they made the rule about the hacker shack and you can't do it in the last 2 minutes, they should take away the intentionally fouling while up three because it is ridiculous and it ruined my evening. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Glad you got that out of your system.
Thank you. Because it
Yeah.
drives me insane. Like I
No,
get it. I'm not an idiot. I get it. But at the same time,
I understand. No, I understand that. It would have made it for a great ending if we
absolutely.
could have seen. Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. Totally understand.
But let's break down the game. That's what everyone's here
Okay.
for. Let's break down the game. It was a very back and forth game. It was tightly contested. The Timberwolves started shooting the lights out. They shot 63% in the first quarter, which you would
Mhm.
think if a team shoots 63% in a quarter, they'd be up big. But they turned the ball over 7 times and they were down seven by the end of that first quarter. Ant only attempted one shot early in this game. By halftime, I think he was 1 of 2 from the field, and Julius was 1 of 4 from the field. I wanted to ask you, what did you make of this performance? Let's start with Anthony Edwards. How much of this do you attribute to him having a bad game versus the scheme of OKC and the adjustments they made?
Yeah, like I told you, I think OKC and Dagnall, their team, are masters of developing a scheme after a loss. They're also masters of halftime adjustments, and I think they came out and they were embarrassed by what happened the other night, and they came out with a real plan that they were committed to. And boy, they executed. I think at halftime, at one, if I'm not mistaken, Anthony Edwards had 4 points and Randall had five, something like that at halftime. It's absolutely incredible. So, I thought it was very scheme oriented, and I give them a lot of praise. It's easy to say, well, they came to play. Everyone comes to play in a big game like this, but when someone has a bad game, it's just lack of execution. And it's like in any sport, Mo, when really good players play against each other, one guy is going to be better than the other guy sometimes, and that's what happened tonight. Uh, my goodness, the two stars on OKC, they showed up, and
Mm.
man, they played. J Dub and SGA
And
were
Chet.
phenomenal.
And,
Yeah, no, Chet had a huge game.
do you mind for our listeners here breaking down some of the scheme that OKC used to limit Anthony Edwards in this one?
Yeah, well, what they do is they really made it hard for him to get the ball. And then when he did get it, they always are showing him what we call the numbers on your jersey. So if he has the ball, and it doesn't matter really, frankly, who's guarding him, whether it's Caruso or someone that they, the two nearest players to him, their jerseys are facing him. So if he puts that ball on the floor in either direction, there's help right there. And they're making a commitment to stop a player and make him pass it. That's why sometimes you saw DiVincenzo and different guys and SGA's cousin. who was absolutely terrific, Walker-Alexander,
Mhm.
wide open sometimes because they were giving them the shots and they're not going to let the stars beat them. That's a commitment that they made. So that is why. Excellent scheme. They're getting what we call the gaps on defense, but that's the space between the ball and the man that you're guarding. And you're in the middle, you're in the gap of that, and you're really committing to help if he gets beat off the dribble.
And how about Julius Randle? How much of that do you attribute to a bad night from him versus a scheme? Because schemes
Uh,
can only shut down a certain amount of players.
Well, my friends in Europe are experts at gambling on sporting events, and I mean that seriously. You've been doing it in your football for years, and you know the terminology prop bets, okay? And a prop bet tonight on the game was that Julius Randle before the game was going to commit more than 3.5 turnovers a game. The guy had none the last game, and he had
Five.
five
And Ant
tonight
had five too.
and their team had 21 turnovers or some
Ridiculous.
absurd things,
Ridiculous. Yeah.
including the one on the last play of the game. So, and he's 1 for 7 from the floor. So I mean, it's hard as a coach to keep someone on the floor when they're not playing well. And I felt because he's been really, in many ways, their best player in many games. And so now it's 2 games really with no shows
Yep. And
out
and
of
it's so
out of
tough
4.
for the Timberwolves because this is a game when your bench gives you 21 from DiVincenzo, 11 from Naz Reid, 23 from Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who took this matchup with his cousin personally, and 9 from
Mhm.
Terrence Shannon Jr. You get those levels of bench scoring. It's pretty hard to lose the game.
Yeah. No, terrific job by their bench. And I get and again, 90+% of their team really played well. They really shot the ball well. They shot threes well. What they didn't do is they didn't take care of the ball. Too many darn turnovers. And when you do that, it's really hard to win. So I mean that's the biggest thing. They scored more points on the break than OKC, which is highly unusual. So they did so many damn things well. They had a great crowd tonight. They were really into it.
They had 19
Uh,
offensive rebounds.
yeah, that's what I'm
The
saying. I
problem
mean
is they also gave up 19 offensive rebounds to a team in OKC who aren't known for being good at crushing the boards.
OKC, Mo, you're right. What they do is they're so small and quick that they get a lot of long rebounds because they do shoot threes, and they had a lot of good bounces for their ways. And those possessions, they cashed in on them after they got the offensive rebound.
For OKC, the MVP stepped up with 40 points on 43% shooting with 9 rebounds and 10 assists to go with that. But it was the other two stars that really impressed me tonight. We knew that Shea would show up and do what he does. But Jalen Williams with 34 points, Chet
Big
Holmgren
time.
with 21 and 7 and 3 blocks to go with that. Absolutely huge games from them. Uh, Jalen Williams, especially in the fourth quarter, was sensational. This might be the best game I've watched him play personally in terms of the moment and being ready for it and completing the mission that they're there to complete. Because if the Timberwolves win this 2-2, it's a completely different series. He was locked in the whole way through on both ends of the floor, defensively and offensively. He was excellent.
When you're an all-pro player like he is, and you play poorly in the playoffs, you usually don't have a second game in a row bad. And both of those guys, even though they're young players, I give them a lot of credit because they showed up. This is the youngest team in the NBA basically, and boy, they show up. They're mature beyond their years, and that's why they're really competitive. They're a good group, and I'll tell you what, in a very hostile environment, they were locked in, as we like to say, locked in
Mhm.
big time.
And because Shea and Jalen Williams were so locked in, they were creating some advantages that Chet could capitalize on as well. And he was playing a lot more aggressive than we've seen him play so far in this series. I really liked what I saw from Chet tonight.
But, that's his hometown,
Hmm.
Minneapolis. That's where
Hmm.
he's from. Him and Jalen Suggs from Orlando went to the same high school, and you know, and then to the same college, Gonzaga. And I think the thing about him is he looks like he's ready to break.
Hmm.
He's so fragile, and but he had a tremendous block at the end of the game. I think it
On
was on
Jalen
McDaniels.
McDaniels, yeah.
Yeah, and it was a big time play because that game could have they were coming. Every time I kept saying they're down seven, they're down eight, the game's over. They kept coming to 3 point, 3 point. Now it's down to two or three. Give them a lot of credit. They never stopped playing.
Casey Wallace made an impact off the bench for them, and of course Alex Caruso. You know, it's tough. I feel bad for Anthony Edwards because he's being double teamed by Dort and Caruso, and I'm just looking at it like I can't think of maybe two worse defenders that I'd want to double team me, like better defenders rather, in
Well,
the entire
two,
NBA.
two, Toomers and Rodman were good in the day, but and you're or Pippen and
So it's a
Jordan,
new world now, coach. It's a
yeah,
new
no,
world.
no, but these kids, they are defenders personified. And that is what Sam Presti, the president of the team, does. He really puts together great teams. And what he does is he goes after specific things. And he went out and got Caruso in a tremendous acquisition. Here's a 31-year-old guy that was on their G League team, as we talked about last night, and he comes back to play. And they give up a tremendous young player in Josh Giddey, a lottery pick, because they knew they needed a big time defender because they didn't have it last year against Dallas in the playoffs with Kyrie and Luca. So they went and specifically got this guy. He won the Denver series the way he defended Jokic, and tonight he was just terrific.
Where do the Timberwolves go from here? Because down 3-1, going to Oklahoma City, you know the crowd's going to be involved. You know that this team, even though they're young, I don't know if they're going to play with their food like that. What can the Minnesota Timberwolves do? You know, especially with the way that they're guarding and Julius Randle with the boxes and elbows stealing off the paint.
Yeah, this is when you find out about your team as an organization. This is when you find out, are we really who we are? They took a step from last year, uh, and now can they take this next step? So what you want to do is you want to go down there where no one gives you a shot, win it, go back home, win it again, and force a game seven. Can you do it? It's going to be so hard. But that's what you have to go and do, that mentality, that mindset of that, you know what, if we want to be a finals team, this is what you have to do. And, and all great teams at some point have had to do that. And yet, where you have a game where you can get closed out, but you go and you upset someone. I think this is what they have to do. Now, OKC, a young team, will they be able to handle going home with the crowd and win when they have to? That's where you're going to see how mature they are. And, I expect them to close it out. I really do, because I think they know the advantage of getting a rest. I think it's really important because the other series, it could be a six gamer, five, but I'll tell you what, if it went seven, New York and Indy, no one would be surprised. So you never want to leave a game out there. You want to close out a series as quick as you can.
Yep. And also Shea playing tonight, he picked up four fouls quite early on. You know, he was kind of playing with the risk of picking up that fifth foul and could have been dangerous, but we saw him play kind of more disciplined on defense than we saw from Brunson the other night.
And another thing, he plays so hard. He plays such an unusual, unorthodox game. You always worry about a star getting hurt. That's why you also want to close it out. Be done with it. Don't go back up there and have them fighting for their life to stay alive. So you want to try everything you can to close out that series.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the Eastern Conference Finals because we saw OKC bounce back from a game 3 loss. Can the Indiana Pacers, who are at home, bounce back from their game 3 loss?
Yeah, I think so. You made a great point last night. Uh, we're going to see, you know, what happened to our guy that got hurt. If
He's
Aaron can come
questionable
back,
right now.
yeah, see, because sprained ankles, as um, you know, you can come back sometimes right away before they swell up. But now, what happened to it today? Don't know. But smartly they put his name on the potential injured list just to give that doubt. I expect him to
Mind
play though.
games. Did you guys ever do that when you were coaching in the league? Just kind of have some mind games with the injury reports?
No, because injury reports weren't required.
Uh-huh.
Because now they're only required because of gambling
Okay.
in college sports and professional sports in the States because of
Okay.
gambling. Yeah, and so that's a really big thing now. So you have to give accurate, you can't make up, but that's a legitimate one that he's on there. Uh, I think the big thing tomorrow is to see, I expect them to come out and really, I think Indiana will be dominant tomorrow. I really do. I wouldn't be surprised if they blew them out. You know, I think that was a survival win, a pride win yesterday, a little bit of luck win. 20
Hmm.
points in a
Hmm.
quarter for a guy that had 4 points going into the quarter.
Hmm.
And now all of a sudden, I don't know if they can sustain that. And there's no one patting them on the back today in
Hmm.
Indianapolis. They're just saying, we got to get tomorrow. We got to get tomorrow. And then your campaign was very effective, from Europe and getting Halliburton's daddy back in their building, so
Yep.
you got that done,
Yeah,
so
well, you
good.
just said campaign. I thought you meant Cam Payne, who plays for the Knicks. I'm like, what do you mean
Oh
he was
my
effective? He
God.
didn't
Oh my
even
God.
play.
Play on words. Yeah, the John Halliburton,
Yeah, yeah. Tyrese's
yeah.
dad's gonna be back for the game. Let's see what kind of distraction that causes. And
No, don't put his ass up in a suite so he will not, only
yeah,
the
so that's a
TV
good
cameras will
idea.
have him.
That's
Yeah,
a good
yeah,
idea. That's a good
yeah.
idea. Yeah, I think, for Indiana, a lot of it depends on the 3-point shooting, as I spoke about yesterday. If the 3-point shots are dropping, they win. When they're not dropping, they lose. It's as
Yeah.
simple as that. And it sounds reductive to kind of phrase it like that, but that's been the
I,
case in every game they've played so far in the playoffs.
I think their focus, their mindset's going to be really strong, and I expect them to come out and really defend and and wear them down and come after, especially Brunson for 48 minutes. Just come after him and really make him work and wear his ass down. So in the fourth quarter, I think I've said before, I think OKC and the Pacers are destiny teams this year.
Mm.
I,
Do
ju-
you
I just feel that way.
do you think that the Knicks are going to have some level of advantage because they played a new starting lineup in the last game and now they're more familiar and more comfortable with it? Do you think that will
No,
help them?
no, that was a disaster, that lineup, as I told you. It was a disaster.
But then it can't get any
And
worse.
no, no, because they were down 20 with that
Yep.
lineup in there. And Mitchell Robinson, who has been terrific, he wasn't used to playing a whole first quarter. The guy, he
He was
shot his wad in the first
exhausted.
half. He was like me on my wedding night, for crying out loud. Uh, except I didn't get to play a whole quarter.
And
What I
luckily, there
remember
wasn't
of it, what
20,000
I
people in the crowd. So,
what I remember of it, yeah.
well, I think right there is a good place to wrap this one up. I appreciate you
Yeah,
as always, Coach.
you got me with the vibe, Mo. You got me with the vibe tonight, man.
Well, that's another day of the conference finals. We'll be back tomorrow to break down game 4 between Indiana and New York and see if Mitchell Robinson can keep hooping after the first quarter and doesn't suffer the same fate as he did in the last one.
Hey, I know one thing. All of our fans in Europe and around the world, they're enjoying the hell out of this as much as you and I are.
Oh,
Shit.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, this is fun. Hey, you know what? There's nothing better than NBA playoff basketball,
Oh,
and
that's a
and
fact.
and and the guys are playing so hard. And tomorrow night, the Pacers and the Knicks, it's going to be
Well, I'll tell you one thing better.
such a physical game, in my opinion.
I'll tell
Yeah.
you one thing better than the NBA playoff basketball, NBA finals basketball, and we're just a week away. So make sure you guys subscribe to the show, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, because we're gonna be here for the rest of the season, breaking down every single thing that happens. So lock in with us. We're gonna see what happens if the Pacers can take a 3-1 lead or if the Knicks can tie the series. I can't wait to find out. I know Coach Sir can't wait to find out. And then we'll be back breaking it down for you afterwards. Appreciate it as always, Coach. And as always, you can check out more of what Coach Sir does at Coaching You. Just give that a quick search online and you'll be able to find the podcast, you'll be able to find the website, the app, all that good stuff. And until next time, get buckets.